Hey guys, it's Dasha. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the third video in, I almost put up two fingers. Welcome to the third video in a series of 3 videos talking all about book series. I did the first 2 earlier this week, so if you are interested, those will be on my channel. I talked about series that I do not want to continue and then series I am very interested in continuing. And so today I'm going to be talking about some priority TBR series that I really want to start, series that have caught my eye for a while now, but I've been trying to finish up. Currently reading series, but I'm just very eager to get to these. So I obviously can't go into a super long synopsis for all of these, but I will try my best. So we're gonna split this into 2 sections, kind of like the last video I did. We're gonna split this into series that are currently completed, where I can buy all of the books, and then we're gonna go into series that are currently ongoing. So starting off with the first series that is currently completed, we have The Chronicles of Dune by Frank Herbert. This is an expansive sci-fi series. I believe it is considered a classic of the genre, and it is, as far as I know, actually, I don't know a single thing about this. I just know it's beloved. I know there's a movie coming out, and I believe it's a story about humans colonizing another planet, as far as I know. I know that it's very divisive. People who love it absolutely love it, and people who don't very much hate it. So I'm excited to see where I stand. I have the first one. I think there are 6 books in the series, and there's also a spin-off series by Frank's son. So, I mean, there's gonna be a lot to get through if I like this, but I'm excited for this one, especially because the movie's coming out, and I just have a feeling that this could be up my alley. But then again, classic sci-fi is very hit or miss, mainly miss for me. Also in the sci-fi vein, I have the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, the first book of which is The Long Way to Small Angry Planet. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is a series of companion novels set in the same universe. In this one, I know you are following a ship and you're kind of more focused on the characters. It's a very character-driven series, but this ship basically bores through space and creates black holes for travel and wormholes and that kind of stuff. But I heard it's just very emotional and very human, and that's what I'm really looking forward to this. This was actually on my 5-star predictions list. If you've not seen that, go give it a watch. But this is one of the books that I just thought I would absolutely love because it seems a bit less heavy on the whole space opera aspect of sci-fi that I generally have a much harder time connecting to and following. Big space battles, too pea-brained for that. So this seems a lot more up my alley, and I'm really excited. I believe there are 4 books in this series, and I believe it is completed, but I might be wrong. They are all, like I said, standalone kind of companion novels, so hopefully even if there are more, it's not like I'm gonna be terribly behind or completely lost, or there's gonna be cliffhangers or anything. Switching gears to fantasy, I have the Lacanius trilogy by James Islington. This is an adult fantasy trilogy, the first book of which is The Shadow of What Was Lost. These are fucking massive. I don't know a single thing about these. I'm gonna be real with you. I picked up a bunch of books during a sale that Chapters had on adult sci-fi fantasy, and this was one of them. Dune was another one, and I was like, you know what? I've heard good things. I've also heard that this is one of those that's kind of underrated. I don't see a lot of people talking about these, so I'm hoping I fall in love. The front says, love the Wheel of Time. This is about to become your new favorite series. And what do you know? The Wheel of Time is also on my list, so from what I gather from the synopsis, there seem to be inklings of gods and rebellions, and literally that's all I needed to know before I picked this up. And because it's a trilogy that's completed, it's gonna be one and done, so I'm looking forward to getting to this one. And since I have it here, The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I have The Eye of the World. I am somehow convinced that this is going to be a new favorite series. This is a very expansive fantasy series. There are 14 fucking books. It just means, more to love in the world, assuming I love it. The only thing I know about this world is that men and women have different powers. Women are more powerful, I believe. They're able to control magic better, but men are able to use magic in stronger, shorter spurts, if I'm not mistaken. Men age a lot more quickly when they use, it's more deadly for them to use magic. That's all I know. I know that people absolutely love the characters. This is such a beloved series. And I know that it is also becoming an Amazon Prime show, so why not pick it up and get ahead of it and be able to be that snob that says, I read the book first before I got the Amazon stickers on it. Going back to kind of more underrated fantasy, I have the Powder Mage trilogy by Brian McClellan. This is a gunpowder fantasy. So as far as I know, it just involves guns in like a fantasy setting, which could be really interesting. The first book I have here is The Promise of Blood, and I am really excited for this one. I can't put my finger on why. I don't know if I'm just sucked in by the cover. I don't know if I'm sucked in by the fact that not a lot of people talk about this, but those that love it. But something about this is like just screaming my name. I'm dying to read it. I'm excited. I'm really excited. And this author's written a few other series, so if I like his writing style, there's always more to explore, but this one for some reason has just been calling my name lately, so I'm really excited to pick it up. The next series, I'm not sure how to pronounce the series name, but the first book of this series is A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. This is a grand space opera. I heard it is extremely political, it is extremely twisty and turny, there's a lot of intrigue, and I am very into it. I've heard incredible things about both books. There is only one more book, it's just a duology, which is also great, considering, you know, this dumb bitch. So that's all I know about it, and that's frankly all I need to know. I love political intrigue. I love when stuff is a bit more subdued, perhaps, even in like a sci-fi or fantasy setting. So I have really high hopes for this duology. Another sci-fi one that I don't own is The Remembrance of Earth's Past by Cixin Liu. So this is an adult first contact with aliens sci-fi series. It's just a trilogy. The first one is The Three-Body Problem. You might have seen this beautiful cover. I am very interested in this. I've heard incredible things about it. It's also one of those that is kind of off the beaten path in terms of popular sci-fi series, but those that know, like, they know. It is apparently incredible. It's very rational and science-based, and it's just fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Something about it's just pulling at me. I love that it's, you know, trilogy. The books are not massive and it's like completed, so that's also very appealing. And along the same lines, we have The Themis Files by Sylvain Neuvel. This is another sci-fi trilogy. It is completed. It is also first contact with aliens. In this one, you are kind of following some interviews with some people who are working on this mystery. So one of the researchers, when she was a little girl, she fell down a hole and she found herself in a giant metal hand. And later down the road, she's researching what this is. And it's teeny tiny, it's very small books. I need to read more sci-fi. I realize I read a shit ton of fantasy, but I never get around to sci-fi. So I picked this up realizing that it was like really small, and I'm like, listen, the format's probably great for kind of getting into the sci-fi groove, because I call myself like a fantasy sci-fi reader, and then I realized that I like don't read sci-fi that much. So this will put me back on track. It's finished. All the books are about this size, and the fact that it's interviews makes it probably a bit more digestible. So I'm really excited to start this one. I'm hoping to get to it this year, actually, to kind of put a bit more sci-fi on my genre board. Just two more series that are completed. So the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty has been on my list for ages. I know that this is a beloved series. It just wrapped up recently too, the first book of which is The City of Brass. And this is following a thief or like a con artist, and she gets taken into an alternate city, like an alternate Cairo, and it's full of jinn and magic, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I think that this series will be a really quick read. From what I know, the writing style is pretty accessible but also very beautiful, and so I'm hoping that this will kind of break up the monotony, because I'm sure there are like a lot of these other series have a bit more of a medieval setting. So I'm really looking forward to a female authored alternate, like non-Western setting. I think that's gonna be perfect, and I'm really looking forward to that one. And finally, we have the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. I started the video game. I didn't get very far into it because I was trying to finish up another one, but I really want to try it again. This is a pretty large series. There's like 12 books, I think, but they're a little bit smaller than like traditional fantasy. Like, they're pretty small books. And I also did read the first short story bind up in the series, because some people said it was a really good way to get into the world, because you don't have to follow like a traditional narrative structure. You're kind of introduced to different monsters and the characters, but I did not really like it that much, so I'm hoping to retry with the actual full narrative with the first book, The Blood of Elves. As far as I know, this follows Geralt, who is a witcher, and that means he's just a monster hunter. He has these abilities that kind of push him to the edges of society, but he has his own little guild of witchers, and they help people. They roam around the land and kill monsters. So I like the premise. I've heard fantastic things. I also want to watch the Netflix show, and I want to play the game, and I just want all the Witcher content because I know it's beloved, so I gotta get on that soon. All right, so the next section is going to to be series that are currently ongoing. I own a few of the it's just embarrassing how many like first books and series I own, but like there's a lot of good sounding series out there. The first of these you might have seen on my channel before, but I still haven't gotten around to reading it. It is The Burning by Evan Winters, the first book of which is The Rage of Dragons. This was very kindly gifted to me by my friend Ray. Ray, I love you. I am gonna get around to this one really soon. I am really excited for it. This is an epic adult fantasy and it does involve dragons, and you're following a character who is just training a ton, I believe, to prepare for a war, if I'm not mistaken. And I've heard amazing things. And I believe only the second book so far is published. I'm not sure if it's gonna be a trilogy. I think it's gonna be more than that. But regardless, I'm really excited for this. Fucking dragons. I don't read enough dragons in books. I'm really looking forward to this, and I love that it is authored by a black man because there's not a lot of them in fantasy and we need more, and I absolutely want to support like the big one right now and see what else is out there. I've also heard that this features a matriarchal society, which is going to be quite interesting. I heard that's maybe not the best executed, but people say that if you like the training montages and that kind of thing, this could be really up my alley. So that's what I'm hoping for from this. The next one is one of the most beloved fantasy series of all time. It's the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. I really need to start this. I have The Way of Kings on ebook. I am really looking forward to starting this. I have also, since hearing about this, read a Brandon Sanderson book finally. I read The Final Empire. So I'm really looking forward to starting his other more acclaimed works. I know that this is set in this world that's like ravaged by storms, if I'm not mistaken. There's like a guild of knights that have to come back together, and there's war brewing and there's all this stuff. And listen, I don't know what to expect, but I really enjoy Brandon Sanderson now. So I believe there are now 4 books published. It's going to be a 10-book series. So maybe I can like hold off on this one because I'm gonna have to wait with everyone else in between. But I remember when the 4th book was coming out last year, BookTube was just such a fun place to be. Everyone was getting so hyped, creating all these videos talking about theories and how much they liked the book and what they expected for future ones. And I'd love to be a part of that, honestly. The next book, I believe, is just going to be a duology with the 2nd book coming out later this year. It's The Scholomance by Naomi Novik. So I have the 1st book here, Deadly Education. This is set in a magical school. You're following a girl who is just trying to get through her last year before she has to graduate, and the graduation is they throw you in a pit of monsters and you have to fight your way out. And if that doesn't sound absolutely badass, I don't know what does. The 1st book doesn't get you quite there. The 2nd book in the series called The Last Graduate, so it's going to be her graduation, but you follow kind of her schooling and her trying to figure out whether she wants to form alliances with other mages or if it's better to be on your own, and you know, kind of the larger political system that's kind of lurking in the shadows. She's trying to work out those mechanics. So I am excited. I like that it's pretty short. I like the magical school setting. I'm looking forward to it. This got a lot of mixed reviews. People didn't love the writing style. I did kind of like start just a few pages and I didn't mind it too much. I love world building. I love finding out more. I'm always hungry for details, so I'm hoping this will end up being right up my alley. And who can resist this cover? The next series that I believe is still ongoing is the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. So this follows a very snarky robot who is sent technically to destroy, but he's got all these like thoughts about life and humans and stuff. So apparently it is just the funniest thing. If I'm not mistaken, the first 4 books are novellas, with the 5th that's currently published being a full-length novel, and there's going to be more set in this world. Mara over at Books Like Whoa is like the biggest proponent of this series. She loves it. She always tries to welcome more people into the Church of Murderbot. If you've never watched her, first of all, you absolutely should. She is like my idol. She reads everything. She is so articulate. I love hearing her talk about books, so I'll link her down below, of course. But this is one of her favorite series. She loves the kind of snark, and I think that our senses of humor are pretty similar, so I'm hoping that I really like this as well. I like the idea of this like sentient robot, so who knows how this one's gonna go, but I'm looking forward to it. And since it's a bunch of novellas, it's probably gonna be good for readathons and stuff, which is always welcome because there's a lot of chunky books on my TBR. The next series is technically an expansive world, kind of like Robin Hobb's The like Realm of the Elderlings. Everything by Joe Abercrombie, I believe, is part of the First Law universe. I think it's all part of the same universe. This is the 1st book in the First Law trilogy, as far as I know, The Blade itself. It's a grimdark fantasy. All I know is that it's very character driven. It's very dark, but it's also very focused on characters. And so there's this trilogy, and then there's the one with a little hatred, or maybe this is part of this one. No, this is a different one, okay. But yeah, I know that this is a very expansive world. There's several trilogies, there's a bunch of short stories, there's a bunch of spin-offs set in this world. So I'm counting this as like a series that's kind of incomplete because he is still releasing books. But I'm very excited to get to this first trilogy. I know it's kind of in that canon of a great series along with Robin Hobb, Brandon Sanderson, George R.R. Martin, and Robert Jordan. I know that it's very beloved and I can't wait to experience it for myself. This one was also part of my 5-star predictions because I can just tell that grimdark fantasy is gonna be up my alley. I like pain, I like horror, I like dark things, so I'm hoping that this checks all those boxes for me. The next series is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This is a very weird blend of like dystopian with fantasy and sci-fi. As far as I know, you're following a character who is living in this like alternate London where being a clairvoyant is illegal. And so one day when she's using her clairvoyant powers, she's discovered, but she's taken somewhere that's like she never knew existed. And I heard it's this really weird blend of like everyone that talks about it can't really talk about it. They just talk about how unique it is. There are slated to be 7 books, I believe, and 4 are currently published. So that's a little intimidating. Kind of like The Way of Kings. They're a lot smaller than The Way of Kings, thank God. But the people that really love this series absolutely love it. They always talk about just how cool and unique and heart-wrenching it is, and I'd love to experience that. I've seen copies of the first book and even like the first 3 books all the time at Value Village, and I just never pick them up because I have it on Scrib, but I'm thinking that like I have a feeling I'm gonna like it, so I should pick it up. I don't know. The next series, I believe the series name is Between Earth and Sky by Rebecca Roanhorse, the first book of which is Black Sun. This was a gift from Robin. I know only that there is a lot of pre-Columbian mythology. I think that's the correct terminology for it. It is set in like South America and it's inspired by South American mythology from the pre-Columbian era. I think that's the proper way to say it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is just very heavily grounded in mythology. The first chapter, which I read an excerpt of on NetGalley, the first chapter opens with this like religious ritual that is just so gruesome and beautiful that I was instantly hooked. And this goddamn cover kills me. The second book is, I'm not sure when it's slated to be released, but we have a name and cover, and I believe it's going to be a trilogy, and I'm just very looking forward to it. I've heard such good things. I just can tell this one was also my 5-star predictions because I can just tell this is gonna be so for me. I love everything involving gods and mythology, and mythologies that I don't read from as often. I think that's definitely something I'm always interested in, so I just have a feeling I'm gonna love this. I can't wait to start this series. We got only 2 more, folks. The first one of these 2 is the Locked Tomb trilogy. Trilogy or series by Tamsin Muir. So the first one is Gideon the Ninth, we have Harrow the Ninth, and there's like another one that has been announced, but I think with no date. But this is basically always pitched as lesbian necromancers in space, and like honestly, that's all I need to know. Everyone says these books are a trip, they are a mindfuck, they are like unlike anything they've ever read, and that's sounds so up my alley. Again, I want to read it. It's gotten so much hype. I have the first book on my iPad and like Apple Books. I got it on special and I was like, yeah, let's go. And then I got sidetracked and like I want to pick it up so bad. I can't tell if it's like sci-fi or magic, and I love that kind of blend. I think it's always a very unique experience, and I love that they're not, again, massive chunky fantasy books, and I'm just so into this idea of lesbian necromancers in space. I can't describe it. And then finally, friends, we have the Dandelion Dynasty from Ken Liu. So the first book here is The Grace of Kings. This is a fucking behemoth of a book. God damn. This is a Chinese-inspired epic fantasy, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it takes bits and pieces from a bunch of different Asian cultures. I'm not 100% sure because everyone that reviews it kind of gives different answers, and I haven't found like any statements from the author himself, so please let me know if I am wrong. But it's definitely always seen as very different because it does not follow the traditional epic high fantasy guidelines of like a medieval setting. It's definitely different and expansive. I love that it's focused on these great political things, but again, not in that traditional setting. This is also one of those that's a little bit off the beaten path. I know a lot of the series I've talked about today have been quite popular because I do want to get more into adult fantasy, kind of the ones that are canon as like the greatest and the best, but this is one that I know is loved by those who love it, and it's a little bit off the beaten path, so I'm hoping that I'll find a new favorite and that I can maybe persuade more people to pick it up. I always like when that happens because I'm like, please read something else. Especially on TikTok, if I can convince Book Talk to read other books, like my job will be accomplished because all they read is the same goddamn thing. But like, yeah, I have high hopes for this. Maybe I shouldn't be putting such high hopes on its shoulders, but I just have this feeling that I'm gonna like it and that it's gonna be something I've never read before, and I'm just really hoping it works out. This one's gonna be read soon for a reading vlog as well, so keep your eye out for that whenever that does happen. Ooh, that is the end. These are all of my priority TBR series. Now you may be looking at this and thinking, that is like half the bookshelves at Chapters, and to that I say yes. The fantasy section is my home, so I've acquainted myself with a lot of the series, and these are like most of them, but it's okay. So if you have read some of these in their entirety, please let me know what you thought of them, which ones to prioritize, maybe knowing my reading tastes, which ones I would or wouldn't like. My social media is also linked down below, as well as all the channels I talked about today, so do check all these lovely people out, and you guys can always come talk to me on my social media and in my comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!